Hey, Russell Brand. If you're going to carry a Bible into court, you might want to know what's in it.
You were looking at some passages. What were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. Man, I'm not going to mark it before.
We had to cut that down because he looked through that book for 1 minute and 30 seconds. But Russell's not alone. A lot of men are telling pollsters they found God these days. I think this newfound faith is a centimeter deep, and it's more about gender than Jesus. I'm Amanda Marcotte. Welcome to Standing Room Only. Are young men flooding churches? To hear the media, especially conservative media, tell it, the answer is a big fat yes. These stories claim that Gen Z men are finding Jesus at record rates, which is weird because usually women are more religious.
Gen Z is reversing a decades-long trend of a declining number of people in the U.S. identifying as Christian, with Gen Z men in particular being more likely to regularly attend religious services.
Young men are now out attending young women for the first time in decades. It's the widest gender gap in 25 years.
Religious institutions are probably the last institutions in our country where men are being told it's okay to be a man, it's okay to be manly, and the women that they meet there are probably real women too.
So did you know that more young dudes are turning to God? True, the devil is having a harder time recruiting than Iran's Navy.
Oh, God, Greg Gutfeld, just quit your job. I guess he's making so much money. Someone apparently thinks that's funny. Except they aren't really showing up at the pews. Yes, a recent Gallup poll found that 42% of men under the age of 30 say that religion is very important to them. That's up from 28% just 2 years before. Young women have stayed the same at 30%. But a deeper look shows that young men are not actually going to church more than young women. The two are basically the same. 39% of young women and 40% of young men say they go to church once a month or more. Even then, we should be skeptical. Research has shown that Americans tend to exaggerate on surveys how often they go to church. And they downplay how much they drink, and they say they go to the doctor more than they do, and they even deny wearing fur. No, I think this poll reflects a weird trend. A lot of young men are getting Christian messages from bro podcasters, even the ones that seem secular, like Joe Rogan.
There's a lot of atheists and secular people that just like to dismiss Christianity as being foolish, like it's a fairy tale. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I think there's more to it. They'll embrace all these different religions until it comes to Christianity. And for whatever reason, that represents white male, whatever it represents, colonialism. People that follow Christianity, that actually do follow it and are real Christians, are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. So my point about that is you could get hung up on the weeds on whether or not you think it's a stupid thing to do. But man, it works. It makes for nicer people.
Oh, God, he's just so wrong about everything all the time. This stuff might seem innocent at first, but Rogan doesn't stick to this vaguely pro-Jesus talk. He also brings on guests who peddle far-right ideas under a religious banner.
I'm a Christian, so I believe in Christian sexual morality, which is that the sex belongs within the bonds of a marriage. And marriage between a man and a woman.
Eve wants to put the feminine ethos at the top of the hierarchy of value. That replaces God, right? And that causes the fall. And then Adam, he's such a cuck.
All the cool kids now are unwoke. Some of them are going back to Christianity because it's the only way to be rebellious. Because, everybody's blue-haired, non-binary talking about piss orgies.
I love that guy lecturing blue-haired piss orgy people on what's cool. Matt Walsh being like, I believe in Christian morality. While Joe Rogan just blow a giant puffs of marijuana smoke in his face. I believe in Christian morality and hotboxing. Rogan is not alone. We here at Standing Room Only watch a lot of Manosphere content. As strange as it is to say it, the podcast bro world also talks about religion a lot. Worse, it's sneaky. As we see with Rogan, it rarely stays in the world of vague spirituality. Once religious talk is normalized, the next step is using Christianity as a political cudgel.
If you're looking at this objectively through a Christian lens, again, Paul very clear on the teachings here. No, you can't disrespect your wife. No, you're not allowed to step out on your wife. Yes, you have to take the bullet before your wife does. Absolutely, all of that's true. But guess what? You get the big piece of chicken, you get to make the decisions ultimately, and you don't have to explain yourself because you think it's not very nice.
I expect my wife to defer to me when it comes to important decisions about where should we live, where should we send the kids to for school, what church should we go to, should I take this job or that job? You know, if my wife wants me to do one job, but I'm like, no, I think this is the important one, I'll expect my wife to submit to me in that.
You brought up in the Bible, King Solomon. Yeah. The wisest man to ever live known to man in the word. You know his downfall? A woman.
Yeah.
Pussy. He met a woman that was for the streets, brought into his kingdom. She led him astray and ruined his whole career as a king.
Oh, these poor girls are just like, oh yeah, I'll go on your dating podcast. What is this church? It's not just secular seeming podcasts pushing religious right ideas. A lot of overtly Christian podcasters have adopted the style and attitude of Manosphere influencers. Their message isn't so much Jesus's gospel of self-sacrifice and humility. It's a lot of sexist claptrap, and some of it is really radical.
If you are a real woman, you don't want to spend your life in an office cubicle. You do not want to spend your days in a boardroom. You want to spend your life building a family. You want to find a father and a husband who can provide and protect for you. You want to be a godly wife and a godly woman and raise a family and leave a godly legacy because that's how God made you.
If a church has a rainbow flag in the front, run for the hills.
Yeah, if a church has a boss babe marching back and forth on the stage, preaching as though she were a man, run for the hills.
Women are designed to be nurturing, and unfortunately, they can't separate their biology from their voting patterns. They are literally loving the dopamine hit of being kind more than their nation's safety and survival. And that's why women's voting was a mistake.
Your wife was never created to carry the load of being the leader of the house. God gave you the grace, God gave you the strength, and you can't abandon that responsibility. You're not the man because you got, Adam's apple. You're the man because you lead your wife. I'm a man, I got a beard, yeah. No, you're not a man, honey. You're a little boy stuck in a big man's body. And until you lead your wife, you are not a man. Until you bring your wife to church, you are not a man. Until you read with your wife, you are not a man. Until you fast for your wife, you are not a man. Matcha boys, lactose intolerant boys, you're spiritually lactose intolerant. That's what you are.
It's true because you yell it. The way they talk, you'd think the New Testament was Jesus telling women to make him a sandwich, which he never did. And not just because sandwiches weren't a thing back then. A few Manosphere influencers are playing the same game with Islam. And they're some of the most popular ones, like Andrew Tate, Sneeko, or Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit.
I don't even think women would find Islam without a man anyway. I think they would only do it really for a man. I don't think that women can have a connection to God without a man explaining it to her.
Like women kind of come in and invade the church. This is where Islam kind of wins, right? Where they don't, women are still second class Islam.
If you got yourself a nice Islamic wife, she wouldn't cheat on you. She'd cook for you. She'd look after you. She wouldn't have an OnlyFans. Most of the problems you're facing currently with women can be solved by Islam.
Really?
I just told you why.
Wait, they actually don't cheat?
She'd have decency. She'd cover up. She'd be God-fearing. If her family would also keep an eye on her, so her family would tell her to obey her husband. She'd want your children. She'd look after you. Islamic women are the best. They understand that the best way to serve God is to also serve their husbands.
I do love that it is the point of conversion isn't like, I read the Quran and I have believed the teachings of Muhammad. It says someone told me there's this cache of women that are more submissive that I can access. These kinds of dudes used to do it to East Asian women, and now they've just moved it over to Middle Eastern women. Oh, these women are perfectly submissive. And it's like, rude, no. Like with a lot of the Christian propaganda, I'm skeptical. Muslim or Christian, a lot of these guys aren't getting married and they're not living clean lives. It's just a weapon against women. I'll talk about this more during Pass the Mic with my guest, Tia Levings. She's a former trad wife who speaks out against these online influencers. But really, I don't think this surge of self-proclaimed faith is about religion. It's about politics. In 2024, A whopping 56% of men under 30 voted for Donald Trump. In the 2020 election, it was only 41%. Most women of the same age voted for Democrats in both elections. And I think it's right to blame the election on the Manosphere's influence on young men. I think that also explains why a lot of young men say they're religious, even when they sleep in on Sundays. Their church is TikTok, or Spotify, or YouTube. This is part of a larger trend of people saying they're evangelical, but getting their religion online. You can see the appeal. They get to hear about how God wants women to submit, but they don't have to sacrifice anything. No prayer, no tithing, no abstaining from sex until marriage. The good news is this has all the hallmarks of a temporary pop culture trend. Already, a lot of young men are souring on Trump. I suspect a lot of them will get bored of the 2-bit fake Sunday school crap too. It's one thing to wave a Bible during a culture war debate, but as Russell Brand learned, there will come a day when somebody actually expects you to read it.
Not this. I can't actually find the verse that I had that day.
I'd like to welcome Tia Levings to the program. Tia is a New York Times bestselling author. Her first book is A Well-Trained Wife, and her new book is called I Belong to Me, and it's about surviving religious trauma. Welcome to Standing Room Only, Tia.
Thank you so much.
So your first book was about escaping an oppressive marriage in a fundamentalist religion. This book is about surviving religious trauma. So why did you decide to go that direction with your second book?
Yeah, 2 big reasons. So A Well-Trained Wife is very much my story, what I went through, how I got in and how I got out of it. And readers will relate to it because we have a very parallel on-ramp a lot of times. And then we pick different paths that diverge. And so that was like a lot of the through line in A Well-Trained Wife, but I wanted to immediately widen the lens to how we are all under the influence of Christian and fundamentalism. We all come from high control or toxic environments or generational trauma. We all have these aspects that directly interfere with our selfhood. There was this natural organic question of, well, how did you heal? Because there's a big disconnect between the woman who escaped in 2007 to the person they meet online in 2020 plus. And how did I do that? How did I rebuild myself? And I was going on this kind of trailblazing discovery myself because in 2007, we hardly had any language for religious trauma or deconstruction or ex-evangelical. The country hadn't taken the big swing yet that we did in 2015. And when I saw like that coming for the whole country, I knew I had to do this work on a broader scale. And that included where do we go from here? Because there are cult cracks, there are cult breaks. We are on the cusp of a massive one as MAGA cracks. And so as we come out of these environments, I want to contribute to the bookshelf of resources that people have to turn to.
I think it's really obvious to a lot of our viewers why the trad lifestyle or this Christian fundamentalist lifestyle would be bad for women.
Right.
But I think a lot of men are still attracted to this fantasy of, you know, the masculinity, the submissive wife. Mm-hmm. You actually lived in this world.
Yeah.
So what are some of the thoughts you'd like to share with men that are maybe thinking that sounds cool?
Yeah, well, first of all, I get it. Like, it's attractive. Fundamentalism always offers a very formulaic approach. Do this, this, and this, and you will have this beautiful ideal outcome. And so it thrives in chaotic environments as the answer to the chaos. And so if you're in today's world where you're not really sure where your place is, you don't really know how to be a man, you don't really know what your role is going to be and where you can have a sense of purpose. Here comes Christian fundamentalism and patriarchy with like, here's what men do. Here's the way to be a man, the only one way. And so what you don't, it's the same as it is for women. What you don't understand is that you're narrowing your world gradually. You're relieving yourself of full expression. And when you wake up further down the road, you're going to realize, whoa, I am now trapped. I can't just change my mind. I can't just get out. So we're setting ourselves up for midlife crisis. And in patriarchy, everyone suffers, including the men and the children. It's not a healthy way to live or way to be. We've proven this over and over and over again in history. And yet it persists as the solution to any kind of diversity or chaos or any disruption or humanity finding itself, finding its new way. And we have this time in history where we are exploding in so many ways. That's a little scary. Politics has taken advantage of it. And so we have a generation of men, especially post-COVID boys, who they're disrupted and they're looking for stability. So it's attractive. I get it. And it's a trap.
So speaking of that, the first clip I want to show you, Martin Cedra is a pastor at Echo Church, and he and his wife Millicent, they're traveling preachers and influencers, and I think that their appeal is they put this young hip spin on women submitting in marriage. So this is a clip from the Daystar podcast where they're talking about that.
Okay.
You need to find a man who is strong and courageous, who loves the Lord, who can lead you, who can provide for you, and who can be the spiritual head of the house. The moment you get married, you actually have to submit to that guy. So don't marry a man who you're not willing to submit to.
Submission is not scary. It's when you're submitting to someone who's not a leader. Submission is a beautiful thing. When he's a man of God, he's in submission to God. He gets convicted by the Holy Spirit. Then that's an amazing leader to follow. It's only scary when you have a bad leader.
There's so much happening in this clip. There is so much. Okay, so they're appealing to a black audience with black men. They have a very femme, white, submissive girl who, as long as she props them up, she's going to be, commended, because they bring in women to bring in other women. So I would guess that the target audience there is actually to women, to get them to cooperate. But those are the same talking points used universally. He's not saying anything novel, and it's full of buzzwords, strong and courageous. Like it's all one stream of keywords.
You called it. Martin goes for the male audience and Millicent goes for the female audiences, and they often do a lot of separate stuff. And she does. She sells it with she looks good, she's cute. There's something kind of attractive
She's cute
about
in
it.
uniform. She's not, there's nothing novel happening there. Like, I think I see that and I see, okay, you've got everything. You've got the barrel curls, the long hair, the sweet smile. So they're obviously going to be successful to a certain audience that's looking for how to be.
The rhetoric about how if he's a good leader, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. Like, as someone who's actually tried to live that lifestyle, how do you feel about somebody saying this? Because it sounds very similar to what you heard.
It's terror. It's terror. I have terror in my stomach right now. It is completely dependent on the benevolency of the person that you choose to submit to. If he can't handle it, if he has a bad day, if he has an addiction, if you hit hard times, if he has demons of his own, his own personal things to work out, history shows, studies show, testimonies show that will come out and be taken out on her and the kids. And we are continuing the cycle of sheltered behind doors, closed doors abuse. So what I see there is like a very terrifying bait and switch. Because once you're in and once you're married, oh, guess what? You can't get divorced. Oh, guess what? You can't, not even abuse is allowed to be claimed. Because they're at the same time, at the exact same time they're using that sales campaign, they're changing our legislation so that we have to stay pregnant and we can't get divorced. And they're taking education away. So it's the trap. They do it two ways, the legislative arm and then the song of the siren. And that's what we just saw there.
There's also something like kind of victim blamey about it embedded in it too, which is like, well, you're the one who made the choice to marry him.
Yeah.
You made a bad choice. It's kind of implied. You just have to make a good choice. And to your point, people change.
They change, and that's the thing that keeps you trapped in abuse for so long. I stayed for 13 years because I thought, well, I did this. I chose this. It's my job to make this work. And if I keep submitting better, it will get better. So you get smaller and smaller and smaller until you don't exist anymore.
So the second clip, Dale Partridge.
What a peach.
Yeah, you know who he is.
I do know who he is.
So he got written up in the New York Times. He's a real debate me bro style guy, and he got the New York Times write-up because he's part of a trend of pastors saying women shouldn't have the right to vote.
Right.
So we have a clip of him for you.
There's a lot of talk right now about women not voting. But the real question is it biblical? Well, I think it is, and here's why. According to Scripture, man was not made for woman, but woman for man. Those aren't even my words. That's literally 1 Corinthians 11:9. The Bible says that the two shall become one flesh. That means before God, they're not two separate entities, they're one. They're meant to be united in their finances, their parenting, their worship, their sorrows, their joys, and of course, their politics. But when it comes to voting, the state steps in and treats married couples as individuals. Now, individualism always nurtures division within a household. In fact, sometimes a wife's vote cancels out her husband's vote. America has tried individualism, it's tried women voting, and the results are not good. So let's go back to God's way and see our nation restored.
Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yes.
Fuck you. Oh my God. I participated in that New York Times article, so I'm very familiar with this clip. And did you see how he conflated creation and Genesis with American politics?
Mhm.
These two are not related. This American state, our laws, our Constitution did not exist with Adam and Eve and the poem that is creation. And yet here he is with quite the stretch and quite the reach in order to manipulate and normalize this conversation about women not voting. It's bone-chilling to me because I wasn't allowed to vote. I always knew this was their agenda. 5 years ago, I sounded crazy for saying that. And now we are having a broad daylight conversation about the 19th.
And I remember when I interviewed you about this the first time for an article I was writing, you mentioned that and I read in your book that you were not allowed to vote. And I was kind of like, well, doesn't that seem kind of, I think for a lot of people on the outside looking in, that doesn't make a lot of sense because that means this household voting idea, which is how they kind of do it, just the head of household. It's like, well, if you did it that way, single women are allowed to vote.
Right.
Married women aren't. Aren't you cutting your voting power in half?
Yes, somewhat, because there's a transition period. So what they know they have to do is change the law. They have to make it so the popular vote doesn't matter. So we see that happening. We see the idea that a wife can cancel out a husband's vote instead of being two equal citizens in the same country, both with rights. So they have to reduce our rights in order to make that possible. They have to push marriage and force us into marriages so there aren't so many single women. They have to make single women and probably men of color, we're going to go right back and forward like we did how we got here, change our civil rights so that only white landowning men are voting. This is an incredibly slippery slope, and they normalize it through things like that. But I see all the problems of the world have come through women voting. That is not substantiated, that's highly selective, and it involves oppressing an entire half of the country. So, yeah, no, he can go screw himself.
Well, and it also seems to me there's like a psychological angle to this too, because they may not be able to take away women's vote. I don't see a pathway to that. But by normalizing even this debate, they're normalizing the idea that we're not citizens.
Right. Exactly. And they did that at the last election. We had this last minute push for it's okay to vote the way you want to. Your husband doesn't know what you do in the voting booth. Now, back to the transition of this, they do allow women to vote right now because they need those popular numbers. So there was this whole scene in my book for the Gore election that I was allowed to go vote as long as I voted the way my husband wanted me to. And some readers asked, well, couldn't you just do what you want and then lie about it? Absolutely not. Because when you're in this kind of environment where you're going to get physically punished, because remember in my story, I was punished for disobedience through domestic discipline at this time. So I would have been spanked for lying. He's going to know I'm lying. There's no way I'm going to be able to pull off that kind of dishonesty. And I would have thought I was disobeying God because I was disobeying my husband. So this idea that you're second class gets embedded very deeply. You don't have rights very deeply. There's nowhere to turn to talk to about this. Your only option is the evil Jezebel feminist that lives next door. You can't tell her you're not allowed to vote. That opens a can of worms. So it's this culture of secrecy that sets in, and you become self-policing and self-subjecting and self-submissive because you're depressed. You have no agency. You have no rights. You have no way to make a change for yourself. Our grandmothers would be horrified. There is a reason why our grandmothers didn't sell this lifestyle to us. But here come the men, hey, we don't know where we are in the world, so let's make the women small so we feel big.
Lucas Miles is the pastor who runs TPUSA Faith, which is their religious division. And he does campus events like his mentor, Charlie Kirk, did. He has a very interesting idea of what feminism is, so I'd love to hear your reaction.
Okay.
When you look at a biblical woman in Proverbs 31, her husband is honored, the city gate. She can consider a field and buy it. She's like an entrepreneur. She is, taking care of the children. She's going afar to bring back things. This is a woman who is powerful in every sphere of life, right? This is a woman that has her own identity, but she is in partnership and she is in unity and submission to her husband in such a way that he actually prospers and she makes him look good as a result of that. That's a very different picture than I think what we've seen in radical feminism. That's basically, I don't need a man to do anything. And it's kind of the Kardashian model that we see.
I could tell he mentioned the Proverbs woman.
So, and did you see her face? Were you watching her face as he said that?
No.
Her spirit just deflated. Because the Proverbs 31 woman, number one, is a collection of values that a mother wanted her son to look for in a woman. It was never an individual woman. She has no name. She's objectified labor. She's a prop. She's like an entrepreneur. She's not an actual businesswoman. It's comical, but watching the light go out in that girl's eyes is heartbreaking. And the collective laughter that it generates is the extra insult that swoops in, because your heart's breaking, your value is diminished, and they're laughing about it. That's what's happening in that moment.
Yeah, so I think a lot of viewers may not know what a Proverbs 31 woman is. If I could ask you to sort of explain, because as soon as you said it, I heard your emotional reaction. It's a common phrase used in these circles.
Yeah. The chapter starts with an excellent woman who can find, or an excellent wife who can find. And it is, again, it's a letter from a mother to a son, Solomon. Here's what you should look for in a woman. She needs to be highly capable. She needs to be an adequate teammate. It's actually a lot of equality. Meanwhile, he's like at the gate being revered, and she's doing all this labor and industry in order to keep the family going. She doesn't sleep. She gets up at the crack of dawn. She does all this work first. She feeds all her servants. She sews all their clothes. And in biblical times, if you can imagine what the household looked like, that's probably a quiver full of kids, plus all the servants and their kids and the livestock. She's not only like growing the stuff that makes the textiles that grow the clothing, she's dyeing it and she's selling it. And so it's a massive, it's a Martha Stewart of the Bible. And of course you
Except
would want
not
that.
allowed to keep her own labor.
Exactly.
It's all for him.
It's all for him. And then he even cracks at it, like he's making him look good. That's her big job. And so this idea of feminism is that she doesn't need a man. Neither does the Proverbs 31 woman. Like, she's got this in the bag. She could probably use the man to get some sleep. Like, if he would help around the house a little bit, we might get some rest. But I think it's really important to remember that their model is not an actual human. They are asking for something that's not humanly possible, and Christian women are holding themselves to a standard that is not even attainable.
One more time, I would like you to tell people about your book and why you wrote it and where they can find you online.
Yeah, so I Belong to Me is a survivor's guide to recovery and hope after religious trauma, and it combats the indoctrination that takes our selfhood. You will find your survival path somewhere in there. I think I started writing it for a niche audience, but it became much more broad in this America. I'm at Tia Levings Writer on all my platforms, and I do interviews like this all the time, educating on the real abuses in Christian fundamentalism.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on Standing Room Only, Tia.
Thank you.
Great.
So fun.
And thank you all for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this. And stick around for Encore. I have a great song recommendation of the week for you. Hey folks, I hope you can hear me over the generator. Today is Flavors on the Avenue here in Philadelphia. And I am DJing for my partner. He owns a record store in this neighborhood that is having this festival. It is basically highlighting not just all the restaurants in the East Passyunk area, but also different businesses like Latchkey Records. So my song recommendation, I have taken out of the store without paying for it, but I think he'll forgive me. I will take it back in a minute. Is off of the new Jessie Ware album, which is called Super Bloom. I love Jessie Ware. She does a lot of disco and house type music. It's very kind of throwbacky and vintage sounding, but still fresh and fun. One reason that it is she is the master of the double entendre. Her songs are absolutely filthy without ever using a bad word or not being family friendly. The song recommendation off of this album is Ride. You can guess what kind of double entendre that is. So yeah, Flavors on the Avenue is a great time. We have all these booths selling arts and crafts and of course food and drinks. It's usually a pretty good time. By the time it warms up in the afternoon, people are off to dancing. I'll be playing songs off this record today. Jessie Ware's Super Bloom, and the song is Ride. If you want more Standing Room Only episodes, please click the subscribe button below. Standing Room only started as a newsletter, and it's free to read. Click the link to subscribe. I love tips. These political battles are playing out in your communities, your towns, your neighborhoods, your schools. If you have a story, please drop me a line or leave it in comments.